following item. So we've got agenda item 6. So we now move on to the Hanworth Park House progress update with Andrew Smith, Assistant Director of Housing. Andrew, please, if you may.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Andrew Smith. I'm the Assistant Director for Housing Development and Supply within the Council, and I'm responsible for the Council's house building programme. And if we can go to the slides, I think obviously most people in the room here tonight will be very familiar with Hanworth Park House, but it's always fascinating to remind ourselves of the rich history.
Just a second, Andrew. Okay, now that's great. We've got the slides on now.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, the slides are live. Initially, with the camera was on yourself only. Great, please proceed.
Okay. Yes, I know most people in this room are very familiar with the house and its grounds and its rich history. But I'm, as an outsider, I'm particularly interested in that history. So I've just thrown a few photos there to remind people of that history and why it's so important that we do actually work together with the owner of the land to restore Hanworth Park House. Next slide, please. So Hanworth Park House is a Grade 2 listed mansion. It's in very poor condition and is at risk of collapse. It's been left empty for over 25 years. It is privately owned, and the current owner is a firm called AGC Limited, who've been working with the council to work out viable plans for the restoration of the house, the gardens to the house, and the surrounding woodland. Next slide, please. So to give you a nice aerial view of the house and the woodland and the surrounding grounds, gives you an idea of how overgrown the house and gardens are and where it fits within the wider park. And a lot of our proposals will be to build new properties within the boundary of this area of land, and also to open up the park to get to the river. Next slide, please. So our main priority is to secure the restoration and refurbishment of Hanworth Park House. And the idea is to turn the house into a wider community hub, which will include many usages and activities, from a heritage museum, cafe, meeting function rooms, local arts and crafts, and other types of uses. It will be approximately about 2,000 square meters of community space when it is refurbished. To assist in the development of the house and the refurbishment, there's proposal to build 5 blocks of residential homes. 3 of them, building A, B and C on the plan, which are marked AGC, is the land that's owned by the developer. This area of land and the house itself is not owned by the council. The developer AGC will develop these homes, and the income from these homes will refurbish the house. The council, who own the land to the left of the house and where the image here shows Longford River, proposed to build 2 blocks of affordable housing that would be council housing, and that will assist in opening up the woodland and refurbishing the existing woodland to connect it into the wider park. The idea is to introduce a new boulevard road through the site to give better access through to the house and onto the park itself. All in all, the council will be refurbishing and making more accessible about 7 hectares of derelict green belt. Next image, please. So there's a few views of what we're thinking of going forward. You can see the house in the context again, and surrounding it is the blocks that are in the light white image here. If we go to the next slide as well, there's some more images that may be a bit clearer for people. So we have 2 aerial views of the house from different angles, giving an impression of where these blocks are going to be and the road that will open through to the main park. The 2 images at the bottom give an idea of that boulevard that leads down to the park. The left one is the one from the rear of the house, and the one on the right shows the image of the front of the house. And just to remind everybody, the house at the moment is enclosed and separate from the park itself. So I'd say one of the main aims we have is to open it up to the wider community. Next slide, please. And this is a straight on view that would be from the existing main park towards the house across the old lawn area. Next slide, please. So what's the next steps? Today we're sort of outlining the vision for the house and the grounds, which will lead into a wider community engagement with the public and key stakeholders such as the Friends of Hanworth Park House. That will take place from the middle of February. We're aiming for the 15th of February for a month. And we're encouraging everyone to contribute towards these proposals. Ideas for the woodland, ideas for the use of the house. The more observations and comments and support we have, the more likely it is that we will achieve our aims. Once we've completed that community engagement, we'll consider all the responses that we've had, and that will lead into a planning application in the spring time. Once the planning has been achieved, we will, the developer, AGC, are planning to commence the refurbishment of Hanworth Park House next spring, summer of 2022. So these slides will be placed on our consultation website, which is on the screen there. And like I say, when it come to the middle of February, we will have some more detailed drawings and storyboards of the proposals that will be available for people to comment on, all of which will be accessed from the website that's on the screen now. Thank you.
That's great, Andrew. Right, so we've got a question from, I believe, sorry, just a second, I'm having trouble with my screen here. So we've got a Alan, you've had a D, was that previously, or was that from this presentation? Alan?
No,
it wasn't, Chair, but I just wonder whether Andy could just confirm what we think the lifespan of the house is, moving forward, if we weren't to get that, if the things weren't to happen by 2022. How much are we against the clock, Andrew?
Well, we've been against the clock for a couple of years now, but the building is still deteriorating, and without a solution and achieving planning for our proposals, there is a real risk that the house will fall down. And how long that is, I'm not a structural engineer, to be honest. It could be 6 months, it could be 6 years. It's very difficult to judge these things, but certainly we are keen to press on and engage with the community now. I'll try to obtain planning permission, and then we'll work to refurbish the house.
Excellent, because I think you'll have the support of this forum and the whole community on it. Thank you very much, Chair.
Councillor Hanif.
Thank you very much, Chair. Andrew, I've got a few questions and some concerns as well. First of all, yes, great. I'm really pleased where we are. It's been a long time coming. Everyone here in this area forum for many years knows the battles we've been through. So I have a question. When you talked about the engagement sessions in your last slide, I remember going through this process that the Friends of Hanworth Park House were always promised a meeting prior to the public consultation because they had been so close to it. So I just want to reiterate that and make sure that the community around the Friends of Hanworth Park House get that pre-meet, because they're the ones that have been quite empowering for us to be where we are today. And I would also suggest that ward councillors be invited to that meeting as well. So that's number one, if you can just make sure that happens. And number two, where you talked about the wider improvements in the area, opening it up into the park and all the landscaping, I'm really keen that we understand properly what that actually means. Yeah. What I do not want to happen and see is that we only do landscaping about 20 meters or something near to the buildings erected, we need to have a proper landscape that really opens up the accessibility from the park, etc. And that will be really key for us if we are truly going to make it a community asset. It cannot be only in the immediate area for that. So that's really key. And the reason why I say that, and this is my last point, and I'll end on that, is that with all the two developments of the two blocks and the housing, there will be a lot of kind of damage to the natural landscape. So that has to be recompensated as well. So that's really key. So that's where I'm coming from. So, and I know I'm not just speaking for myself, I'm speaking for my ward councillors and also the Friends of Hanworth Park House. So they were the things I just wanted to get across. And I'm glad where we are at the moment. And thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Yes, we've been talking to the Friends for many months now, and we do plan to have a meeting with them in advance, so they're fully briefed on the detail of proposals. And obviously we will include the councillors as we normally do in our pre-engagement sessions. Yes, as I said, the idea is not just to do like an environmental improvement around the buildings that we build. It is to open up the whole of the 7 hectares that still remain within the council's ownership, and that will allow a lot of the loss of the landscape to be compensated by opening it up. And we're hoping that a lot of the activities around the environment, around schools and nature, can be run from the house as well, so that the community is engaging within the house. So that's certainly very much the core of the plans from the council side. So I think I can reassure councillors that that is really as much important to us as it is the residential development.
Thank you, Andrew. So Andrew, I do have another. I've got a couple of more questions for you, and these have come in via the live event Q&A. So I believe maybe from the members of the public. So I'll just read the first one out to you. So from Richard Griffiths, Chairman, Friends of Hanworth Park House. To build in public greenbelt land, it must meet the special circumstances. So Jules Pipe, Deputy Mayor, Planning and Regeneration, said at a meeting that the GLA have advised that full landscaping and park improvements must be included for the development and not done years later, as it won't be supported. What progress has been made by London Borough of Hounslow to action the landscape and environment master plan to support this planning application? Can you elaborate on the improvements, especially the budgets during the challenges we live in now?
Yes, the landscaping is as important to us as the residential development, and we are keen during this consultation to hear all the ideas that there may be from the community as to the uses that we could put this land to, how we can interact with the community, how we can bring it in. And until we kind of have that idea, it's very difficult to have an idea that exactly what's going to go on in the planning application. But it is definitely at the forefront of our plans. The very special circumstances that Richard referred to is a planning term that applies to loss within the green belt, and certainly from the GLA's point of view and the loss of that green belt is a combination of the restoration of the house, the community activities there, the affordable housing, the wider improvements to the park. So all of it is a complete package, and all of it is a package that we have to deliver as part of the planning application. So again, it's part of the core plans that we have, and will not be some plan for further down the road.
Okay, Andrew, there's another follow-up one from another member. So why is the council proposing to build so many blocks of housing? Why these locations? Some of these council blocks appear to be over an existing path. Has the council considered building the blocks by the river / less prominent locations?
I don't believe the buildings are going over existing paths. I think so far they're designed to go around them and work with them. The location has been chosen partly because it will form a community in itself rather than spreading it around. The quantum is required to generate sufficient income to be able to refurbish the house. So the quantity is the minimum that we believe that we need to be able to make the restoration viable.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. If there are no other questions directly for Andrew, okay, so we got one from Hanif. We'll take that and move to the following agenda item just after that.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, and Andrew, that's all really good, and I just have a bit of a follow-up question in relation to the two other questions that come in. Is that when we talk about the affordable housing, in terms of the money that will be raised, I just want to make sure that we've got the sufficient budget to be able to do and cover the special circumstances. So just make a note of that, because that's really important as well. And I appreciate why we have the social housing, but it's also important that we have the budget, or later let us know that we have the money, etc., because that will definitely come out in the consultation. That is going to be really key. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you, gents. So I'll move on to the following question or